Right, good morning to my beautiful little geography bunnies. Welcome back and welcome to week 3 in the geography classroom. Now, I am really excited about today's session, but before we get started on what we're going to do, I owe you all a massive apology. So it turns out that even as your teacher, I made a mistake last week and I spelt the word Antarctica wrong on my poster. So what I forgot to do was add in a little C there between the R and the T. Now, for some of you, I think you might have copied my mistake. If you did, I am so sorry. I promise that I'm going to be super careful with all my spellings today, and it just proves how important that really is. Now, before we get started on today's session, we're going to do what we always do, and we're going to go through the list of things that you are going to need to take part. So, the first thing you need is your piece of paper. The second thing that you are going to need is your colouring pencils. The third thing is just a normal pencil. That's my normal pencil. There we go. And you are also going to need a ruler, okay? So I'm going to find my ruler. There it is. So I need a piece of paper, colouring pencils, normal pencil, and a ruler. So we're going to pause the video so that you have a chance to go and get the things that you need, and then we'll be back. Okay? Okay. Amazing. So you should have your piece of paper, you should have your colouring pencils, you should have your pencil, and your ruler. And the one thing that I forgot to say is you will also need your map from the first week. Now, what we're going to do is a quiz, exactly like we did at the start of last week's session. So, can you take your piece of paper for today's lesson? And all I'd like you to do this time is just to fold it in half. And you'll see why later in the lesson, but it also helps us with the quiz. So, fold your piece of paper in half, and then just like we did last week, can you write the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So it looks like that. Okay, take a second. Right, what's going to happen now then is I'm going to ask you 4 questions that are based around things we learned last week about Antarctica. So if you want to go and have a little sneaky look at the sheet that you made last week to jog your memory, that's totally fine. If you think that you can remember it without looking at your sheet, then give it a go. If your brain starts to hurt, that's not a bad thing. And then the next 4 questions that I'm going to ask you, they're going to be about what we learned in the first week's session. Because it's really important that we try and build up a kind of knowledge and we keep it all inside our head. There's no point doing it if we don't remember it. So, some of you will find this easier than others, all right? Some people's memories, we have to work a bit harder, whereas some people, it's almost like cheating, they have really great memories. So, question number 1 from last week then. What is the temperature or the lowest temperature in Antarctica? Okay, I'll give you a second to write that down. Okay, question number 2. There are 3 different ways that penguins were adapted to living in the cold. One of those ways was that they had waterproof feathers. What was the other way, or what were the other 2 ways that penguins had adapted to live in those really cold climates? If you can write one of them down, that's perfect. I can hear your brain starting to hurt. This is good. Okay, question number 3. And remember, it was my favourite because I thought it had a funny name. Name the plant that we studied in Antarctica. And I'm giving you a clue. Okay, question number 4. How many scientists live on Antarctica? Now, to help you, in case I've gone too quickly, I've put the questions up on the board. So I'm going to hold it up now. And if you want to, you can pause the video and just go back through them again. Okay, there you go. So now we're going to go on to question 5. What was the name of the line that separates the top part of the Earth from the bottom. So what was the name of that line? Okay, question number 6. From your memory, is Antarctica above that line or is it below it? So was it above that line or was it below that line? Okay, then question number 7. Have a look at my map. Can you name that continent there? And question number 8, I'm sneaking around the side here. Can you name this continent here? Now, just like before, I've put those questions up on the board, so I'll hold it up now. If you have a look at them and there's any that you've forgotten, pause the video now and take the time that you need to go through and put the answers down. Good luck. As I say, if your brain hurts, that's a good thing. Okay, amazing. Right, let's go through the answers. So pick a colour pencil, one that you love, it doesn't matter what colour it is, and give yourself a tick if you get it correct. And if you make a mistake, don't worry, just make sure that you correct it. So question number 1 was, what is the lowest temperature in Africa? So the lowest temperature was minus 128 degrees Celsius. So cold, okay? Right, question number 2. The question that I asked was about penguins. And I said, how are penguins adapted to that climate? So let's have a look at my drawing from last week. So if you remember, they have waterproof feathers. So when they go swimming so that they can catch fish, the water just rolls off their feathers so it stops them getting cold. But the other 2 adaptations that they have is 1, penguins have blubber. And now that blubber is like a layer of fat underneath their skin and it keeps them warm. And if you remember, and I kept saying this word silly, so they have what's called a brood pouch. Now, as you might remember, that was where the baby penguin stays once it's been born and where the baby penguin's egg goes before it is born. So both of those things, blubber and a brood pouch, they are there to help that penguin survive in the cold. Now, the next question I said was, what was the name of the grass that we studied? And I gave you a clue. So it was hairgrass. Now, some of you did some amazing drawings of hairgrass last week, so I love that. Thank you for sending me your pictures. Question number 4, how many scientists live on Antarctica? So that was 4,000. Okay, my next question, this one's really important. It's why I've asked it twice. I asked it last week and this week. Is what's the name of the line that separates the top and the bottom of the Earth? And the name of the line is the equator, okay? That is really important that we remember that. Now, I then asked you, is Antarctica below that line? So is Antarctica below the equator or above it? And actually, we can see from our map that Antarctica is below the equator. Okay, question number 7 was name this continent. Now, we're going to do a little bit of work around this today because as I understand it, people are not saying this right, but I'm not surprised. So I'm going to teach you a little song that's going to help you to remember it in a minute. So this one is Australasia. Everyone say it for me now. Australasia. Good, okay. Now, this one, question number 8, Africa. So, give yourself a tick. If there's anything that you didn't quite get right, then just here are the answers. Make sure you make a note of it in your colour, change it so that it's correct. And then let's crack on with today's lesson. Okay, so I am super excited about today's lesson. And the reason being, we are going to have a look at one of my favourite countries in the whole world. So my brother, he lives in this country and he has lived there for the past 6 years, and I've been really lucky and I've been out there to visit. I also used to live in this country for a little while. So the lesson today is all about Australia. Now, this is where there's some confusion setting in. Australia is the name of the country, but Australasia is the name of the continent. So we're going to do something that I saw on TikTok the other day, and I'm going to give you a little rhyme to help you remember it. But the first thing we're going to do before we learn the rhyme is we're going to learn a little beat. So what you're going to do is you're going to take one hand and keep it open, and you're going to bang it on the table, okay? And then you're going to click your fingers with the other hand. So I'm going to show you the rhythm, and then you practice after me. So bang the table, click our fingers, 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 okay? So practice, bang the table, click your fingers. Have a go at that. Okay, good. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to add a way of remembering this, okay, into our rhyme. So we're going to bang on the table. Australia is a country in Australasia. 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 Right, I want you to have a go now and see if you can do it. One, without mixing the words up, but two, Australia is a country in Australasia. Australia is a country in Australasia. Okay, have a go. Come back to me when you're done. I'm going to pause the video now. I'm back and I'm hiding behind my computer screen because I want to show you a map of Australia. So, Australia is the country in the continent of Australasia. And I know that that's a tongue twister, and I know that that's why we've done that rhythm to help you remember it. Now, there's something I love about Australia as a country before we even start, and that's the way it looks on a map. So if you go like this, and you look at half of Australia like that, you can see it looks like a cat's head. But if you put your hand across it the other way, to me, that looks like a dog's head. So I always remember Australia as being the cat-dog place. Now, Australia is an absolutely massive country, okay? And to give you an idea of just how big it is, if you were to drive all the way from Melbourne, which is down here on the south coast, all the way up to Darwin, which is up here on the top coast, then that would take 3 days, 3 whole days in the car. So what I decided for today's session was that we weren't going to focus on the whole of Australia as a continent, otherwise Australia as a country. I decided that what we would do is focus on my favourite part of Australia, because this is where I used to live, okay? So we're going to have a look at a place that's called Fraser Island. And Fraser Island is here. It sits just off the coast of Queensland in Australia. Now, Fraser Island is amazing for a number of different reasons, and I'm really excited that we're going to talk about this today. Now, the one thing I do want to tell you before we even start is that Fraser Island actually has a different name. So originally, the people from Australia, they're called Aborigines, and Aborigines call Fraser Island Gari, okay? It's spelled Kugari, but you say Gari. And that's their special name for that island because it's really important to them and it's really important to their people. So as we look at this today, we're going to look at Fraser Island, but as we say, the Aborigines would call it Gari. Now, what I'm going to ask you to do is this. Today's session is going to be focused on learning a little bit about the different animals that live on the land and the different animals that live in the sea by Fraser. So what I'm going to ask you to do is this. It's slightly different from what we've done before, which is why we've only folded our page in half. I'm just going to move my computer a sec. We are going to have on one half of our page today Fraser Island or Gari on the land, and then on the other half of our page we're going to do Fraser Island in the sea. So I'm going to pause the video for a second. Let me show you what it is that I mean. Okay, so welcome back. This is a photograph of the magnificent Fraser Island, okay? Now, Fraser is actually 16 miles long and 14 miles wide. So in terms of, compared to the size of the UK, it's really small, but actually it is the world's biggest sand island. Now, this whole island has been created by sand because the sand gets blown in from the sea and then it deposits there and has built up over thousands and thousands and thousands of years to create this sand island. Now, the thing that you're looking at here is quite unique to Fraser in itself because it's a small mass of rocks. And this is actually called Indian Head. Now, Indian Head is a really cool place to go and stand and to go and look for the different animals that live in the water. So I'm going to show you a picture of when I used to live there. So that's me stood on the top of Indian Head, and I used to live there back in 2013, so probably before lots of you were even born. And I used to live in a tent, and my job there was to help the Aborigines to look after the land and to look after the animals. Now, what you are going to do on your piece of paper is you are going to draw Fraser Island on the land and Fraser Island on the sea. Now, you're going to need a yellow pencil and you're going to need a blue pencil, okay? Because the yellow pencil is going to represent the sand part of the island, and then the blue pencil is going to represent the sea. So what I'm going to do across half my page is I am going to draw basically a whole plot of sand like this, and I'm going to draw the sea to meet it. So don't worry, I'm going to show you what this looks like in just a second, okay? So we're going to have our sand on one side and our sea on the other. Now, I've really just sketched those very quickly. If you want to take a little bit more time to colour those in and make them a little bit more beautiful, then that is okay. Okay, we're going to pause the video. You guys draw Fraser on the land, Fraser in the sea. Welcome back. Now, like last week's lesson, we are going to start by talking about the climate in or on Fraser Island. Now, the climate, if you remember, was made up of two different things. So I want you to have a really good think. When we talked about climate, what were the two things that we mentioned? Okay, if you just said rain, fall, and how much it rains, you are correct. And if you said temperature or how hot it is, you are correct. So what we're going to do is, with the yellow, in the top left-hand corner of the page, I want you to just draw the sun. Now that seems really simple. So you can draw some sun's rays coming out of it as well, if you would like to. We're going to have the sun in the top corner. Now, the average temperature on Fraser Island is plus 25 degrees. So we're going to add that into our sunshine. So it's 25 degrees Celsius. So you're going to add that in like that. Now that means that Fraser Island is hot, and it is hot all year round. It does have some change throughout the seasons, but if you go to Fraser Island, you can pretty much be guaranteed that it's going to be t-shirts and shorts weather, not like Antarctica last week. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to look at how much rainfall falls. Now, rainfall is really important because plants need rain and they need sunlight to help them grow. So, we're going to draw in the sky a little rain cloud. And I want you, if you can, to use a light blue pencil, because it doesn't rain a lot in Fraser, but it definitely rains enough that lots of different types of plant can grow. So you can see there, I've just drawn my cloud. It's not covering the whole sky, and it's light blue. And the rainfall that they get every year there is 1,800 millimetres. And actually, as a result of that combination of sunshine and rainfall, Fraser Island has a massive 856 different types of plant. So that is a lot more when we think about it than Antarctica. And if we think about Antarctica, when we compare it to Fraser, the reason that Antarctica only has one type or two types of plant, the hairgrass, is because there just isn't enough sunshine and there isn't enough rainfall. Whereas Fraser Island is perfect for plants to grow. So we're going to add some plants to our map, or to our picture now. So you're going to need a green pencil, hopefully one that's sharpened, and you are going to need a brown pencil. Now, on Fraser, the main type of plant that grows there are actually very tall trees because it has a little bit of rainforest. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw some trees on our map, and I'll show you exactly what they should look like in just a second. So they're quite tall, and then they've got very green leaves. So you can press down quite hard with your pencil at this point to represent those trees. Okay, so have a look there. You have got lots of trees. Now the next thing that I want us to do is we're actually going to add some roots underneath our tree, because that's how the roots of a plant, they suck up the water, and that's what helps trees to grow. But there is something magic about Fraser Island. This is why I love it, because it's just so unique, it's so special. In the soil on Fraser Island, which is actually sand, there is a special type of bacteria. Now, bacteria is so tiny that you can't see it, but we're going to draw it on our map just so that we can see it. And that bacteria allows plants to grow there. So have a look. Can you see? I've drawn my pink dots. And that represents this incredibly cool bacteria that helps the plants to grow there. Now, we need a couple of labels to make sure this is perfect. So I'm going to add them on now. I'm going to put tropical rainforest. I'm going to put roots at the bottom. And then we're going to call it magic bacteria, okay? Because it is so special and it is the only place in the world that that's found. So add these labels to your diagram, finish your drawing of your trees. We're going to pause the video and I'll come back to you in just a second. Okay, welcome back. So we're going to now talk about some of the land animals or the species that live on the land on Fraser Island. And the first one that you can see in the photograph here actually looks a lot like a dog. Now, have a think. I don't know if any of you will know this, but what is this type of animal called? So they're actually called dingoes, and dingoes are a mammal and they are a top level carnivore on Fraser Island. So what that means is that they eat other animals. Now, dingoes have a reputation for being quite dangerous because over the years they have occasionally attacked human beings on Fraser Island. Now, my experience with them was really different. They're actually lovely, lovely animals. And I even actually got to stroke one day when it was walking through the campsite because they've become quite used to living near humans. Now, that's not the animal, though, that we're going to focus on. The animal we're going to focus on is this one. So, have a good look at this photograph. This, my friends, is called a king brown snake. Now, king brown snakes are the second most venomous snake in the world. So what that means is if a king brown snake bites you, it injects a venom into your blood, and then that can cause all sorts of problems. And actually, these are responsible for quite a lot of people dying. Now, what is interesting about this photograph is I took that picture. Now, one day I was working in the campsite and one of the Aboriginal guys said to me, Krista, come here, come and have a look at this snake. And I went over and I didn't know what it was. I got my camera out and I started taking pictures. And then he started to explain to me that this was the second most deadly snake in the world, at which point I ran away and I was terrified, but I do still have the photographs. So what we're going to do is on the land part of our drawing, we are going to draw our king brown snake, okay? Now, I can tell you that they're quite long. They're about 2 meters, so about the width of my arm span or a little bit more. And they are quite scary looking. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to draw my king brown on the land part of my drawing, okay? So you draw yours, I'll meet you back in a second. So as you can see, I have drawn my king brown snake on the sand, and I'm going to add the label king brown snake, and then I'm going to add a fact about the fact this is the second most venomous, which is definitely a tricky word to spell, venomous snake in the world. Okay, so the second most venomous snake in the world. Scary. Now, for those of you that do like snakes, Australia is the place to find them. So when we lived on the campsite, we used to find snakes probably every day. And we used to find massive, great big pythons, and they're quite different to king browns. So if they're trying to kill their prey, so they're trying to eat something, they don't bite it. What they do is they wrap themselves around it instead. So they're what we call constrictors. So go and have a look. If you want to, Google Australia snakes and it will tell you all about them. Welcome back. And for a bonus point today, I also want to know what type of animal a snake is. So I told you that the dingoes, they were mammals. So what is a snake? How do we classify a snake? Bonus point if you can let me know at the end. Right, the next animal that we're going to have a look at is even more terrifying. It's amazing actually that I'm still alive, having lived on Fraser Island for so long. And what we're going to have a look at is this guy, okay? So this is a bull shark. Now, bull sharks are the biggest, baddest sharks in the water. And do you remember the picture I showed you earlier of Indian Head? So when I lived there, part of my job was that I used to stand on the top of Indian Head and I used to watch for sharks. And then some of my friends, they used to go surfing in the water. And my job was if I saw a shark, I had to stand and go like this and put my hands above my head so they could see me and go, shark, shark. And one day when we were there, we genuinely saw a bull shark in the water. And I was really scared. So I'm stood on the top of Indian Head. I've got my hands above my head and I am screaming, shark, shark, shark. And they couldn't hear me. And then luckily, one of the surfers, he looked up and he saw me and I was like, shark. And he could see that I was really, 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 really scared. And he told all the others and the surfers got up on their surfboards and they managed to surf their way back into the land. But as they did, the bull shark, it turned and it started following them on their surfboards. I have never been more scared in my whole life, which is why we're going to draw a bull shark on our piece of paper. So we're going to draw our bull sharks. I'm going to hold it up on the screen again so that when I pause it, you can see it. Draw your bull shark in the sea. Okay. So this is my drawing and you can see that I've labelled it bull shark. And actually, I even think he looks grumpy. They are genuinely terrifying animals. Right, the last thing then, the thing that we're missing from our map is we're missing the people. And can anyone remember the name of the people that I said lived on Fraser Island? Okay, you're right, it was Aborigines. Now, what I've done is I have put a tiny little video clip into the playlist on the YouTube channel. So you will have to be subscribed to it to watch it. What I would like you to do is to watch that video. It's very short about the Aborigines. And then we're going to draw a picture of some Aboriginal people and the artwork that they use onto our picture. Okay? Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the video. So the video talks about the Aboriginal language and how there's not actually that many people that still speak it left in Australia. And it's true. Now, the Aborigines actually have quite a sad history. When people came over from Britain, from the UK and from other European countries, and they went there a long time ago, they weren't very kind to the Aborigines. And we'll talk about that a little bit later, but let's just have a look at this photograph here. So this is one of the Aboriginal tribes that still exists in Australia today. And I was really, really lucky that I got to experience kind of living with Aborigine people and learning about their culture and learning about their history and their music and their dance and their art. So what we're going to draw in the top corner of our page is we're going to draw a picture of an Aboriginal person. And there are literally only 182 of those Aborigines that live in Fraser Island nowadays. Okay, come back to me in just a second. Draw your picture. Okay, so welcome back. Now you will notice that I am not the best at drawing people. We were the same when I drew a scientist last week, but this is an Aboriginal person and you can see that they're wearing the traditional clothes that they would have worn. Now remember what I said, there are 182 Aboriginal people that still live on the island of Fraser. So, another amazing lesson. Now, I feel like we perhaps need to add a title to our map, or to our picture. So we're going to have the word Fraser Island at the top, but we're also going to write down the way that the Aborigine people would spell it. So that's Kagari. Remember I said it was pronounced Gari Island, okay? Because it is important that we continue to use the Aboriginal name. So if we have a look there, we can see we've got Fraser Island or Gari Island. Right, that brings us to the end of today's lesson. Now, I've also put another video on the playlist section of today's lesson because there are so many other amazing animals that live in Australia that we haven't spoken about today. Kangaroos, we're talking about koala bears, there's all sorts. So I've put another video in there for you to watch if you want to find out a little bit more. And I'm going to be posting a video later today that tells you who won the logo competition. Now, your designs were incredible. I absolutely love them. So thank you so much to everyone that took part. I'm going to ask you all, if you can, if you did draw me a logo, can you get your mum or your dad or your brother or your sister to send me your address? Because even if you didn't win, I still want to send you something in the post. Right, well done. An amazing lesson again today, and I will see you next week. Have a wonderful Easter holiday.